I'd like to call this meeting of the Coventry Technical Review Committee to order. It is Monday, March 17th at 1:35 p.m. We'll do first a determination of a quorum. I see that a quorum of the TRC is present. Next, we'll do an emergency evacuation plan. You will head out the rear door. Next is approval of minutes. We have 3 minutes. We'll do them each with a separate motion. I don't know if anyone has had an opportunity to review or has comments or edits. Here, if you don't, I'd like to hear a motion. We'll do October 15th first. All right, I have a motion from Mr. McGee to approve the minutes of October 15th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, second by our principal planner designee, Josh Chase. All those in favor of approving those minutes, say aye. All right, next we'll do January 13th. Do I have a motion? All right, motion by principal planner designee Josh Chase. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. McGee. All those in favor? All right, January 13th is approved. Next is February 10th. Do I have a motion on those? Mr. McGee moves. Second? Second by Chief Heiss. All those in favor of approving? All right, those minutes are approved. Next, we'll jump into our new business for discussion or comments. Item number 4.1, Horizon Lots. This is for comments to the administrative officer. This is a project that would not be going to the Planning Commission and would result in a staff level decision as a preliminary plan minor subdivision. The applicant seeks to subdivide a vacant 1.92 acre parcel into 3 conforming lots, each of which would be roughly 0.6 acres in size for the purpose of constructing 1 new single-family dwelling on each lot. So I know that we have a few comments on this. Why don't we go down the row? Director McGee, do you mind leading with any of your comments on this one? No comments, Director McGee. Joe, do you have any comments? Horizon.
I have 3 comments on the plans. Stormwater management practices must be provided to treat the water quality volume of runoff from the proposed driveways in accordance with the Coventry Subdivision regulations and the state stormwater manual and the state of Rhode Island stormwater management guidance for individual single-family residential lot development. Practices could consist of qualifying pervious areas, QPAs, rain gardens, or infiltration systems such as dry wells or crushed stone trenches.
Joe, before you move on to the next, is it fair to say that that information can be provided at the building permit stage?
Absolutely.
And then do you mind if we add that just to your comment that such information can be provided at building permit? Thank you.
Comment number 2, submission of a Town of Coventry soil erosion and sediment control application will be required for the project. That can also be done during building permit stage. And comment 3, a Town of Coventry commercial sewer connection application will be required for the proposed sewer connection. Just a note that a capacity analysis of the existing sewer infrastructure in New London Turnpike is currently ongoing, and its conclusions will need to be known before a will-serve letter or permit is issued. Comments?
Thank you very much, Joe. Dennis, I believe you're serving as the principal planner designee on this. Do you have comments?
Yes. The applicant must provide existing conditions sheet that shows the subject parcel as it currently stands with proposed new lot lines removed. For example, show as sheet 1 of 2. A portion of the subject parcel was noticed as part of a prior approval for New London Preserve. One of the conditions of that prior approval was to install sidewalks for the full length of this property. Therefore, the applicant of this new subdivision will carry that requirement forward, and this immediate application will receive a condition to construct new sidewalks along the full length of its frontage on New London Turnpike right-of-way. The applicant will also be required to complete the sidewalks at the southern terminus of the adjacent property, 2050 New London Turnpike, to connect to the future sidewalks at Horizon Lots. In the application, the applicant should anticipate a curb cut in the future sidewalks in front of Horizon Lots that will lead to a crosswalk that will connect to Coventry Center, the proposed major land development across the street. The location of the curb cut will be determined by town in coordination with Coventry Center developers.
Thank you for that. Chief Heist, do you have any comments on this?
No comments on this one.
All right, and Chief Katie, do you have any comments on this one?
Comments?
All right. So although this is certainly a formal setting, as you know, Sam, we handle these fairly informally. This would be kind of your opportunity for discussion, questions. We can certainly provide you with those written comments that you just heard. So you know, if you want to take a look at the details, but based on what you heard, any response? Do you mind, Sam, do you mind hitting your button just so we have it all on the recording?
Sure.
Are you green over there?
Yes.
Great.
So, the first question is about sewer. So is that say, if we get approval, we can't build on those lots?
What do you mean?
Um, The sewer availability study, what's the status of that as it relates to recording these lots and selling them?
You can still record the lots and sell them. We can't guarantee you sewer, although to be quite honest, I think we're not heading to a place where you're not going to have sewer. But as you're aware, Sam, all developable lots in this particular corridor, which is the New London Turnpike corridor, along with all the developable lots in the center of New England, they're all feeding through this line. There's more development happening than had been initially anticipated when that line was constructed. We're underway with the sewer capacity study being done by Fuss and O'Neill on behalf of the town to make sure that the existing line in New London Turnpike has the capacity for everything that we're seeing. And I don't anticipate that we're going to be in a position of not providing the eventual sewer. We're trying to figure out, is there a capital project somewhere here that's needed to ensure the capacity that we have in terms of the number of pre-apps, the number of units, all the growth that we're anticipating. You'd be able to record the subdivision. You'd be able to build on the lots. You could build on those lots with OWTS today, but you couldn't connect to sewer until you've got that approval. And Joe, where would you say we're at in the timing of that?
So I'm hoping to have that report by the end of next month.
And if it's not favorable, so all of these other projects are ahead of this project in terms of capacity?
I would say we're not handling it in a first come, first serve. We got to the point where we recognized that there was a lot more development, a lot more units, and actually more commercial all coming than had been envisioned in this particular corridor of the community. And this is let's make sure that that line is got the capacity. If it doesn't, and we have a capital project, then we're going to start sorting that out. I recognize that this is 3 lots. I recognize that to some degree, you know, there are other areas of this corridor where we're expecting 1,500 to 2,000, but we're not handling it on a first come, first serve. But I think we'll try to, if we get to the point where we recognize that there is a capital project and the capital project is needed to get that extra 1,000, we'll have a conversation with you then about what's realistic for us to consider for an immediate approval versus what should wait. We're basically, imagine, you know, you've got a project behind this project that's bigger. There's a number of bigger applicants at the table. If we've got a capital project, you know, there's going to be a discussion with everybody on how we handle that. I mean, we're not looking to hold projects up, but we want to make sure we know what we've got before we start sending sewer approvals out the door. Does that make sense?
But there's no realistic, although there's an expectation those projects are going to move forward, there's nothing to say they're gonna, they're master plans, right?
Yeah. But I would say, you know, when we get there, we get there. The results of the study at the end of next month will tell us a lot. You know, I'm not saying that these lots might not move forward, but that's going to be ultimately a decision. We're not here to kind of pick the winners and the losers. We're trying to hold everybody to the same line. I get that your project is a very different scale than other projects here. So we'll keep that in mind as we consider when we
Building a
can.
house on that lot tomorrow would be not achievable, but fair to say,
You can with OWTS.
WTS.
But if you want sewer connection, then you need to go to the sewer subcommittee, and then you get a sewer, then that goes to the town council. That's how you get approval for sewer. The town will be in a position to reflect on that once we have the data back from that study.
And I think I heard it was a commercial sewer application was that what you said, Joe?
Not for the 3 house
Oh, okay.
lots, no.
Okay, fair enough.
That's your intent right now. You guys want to do sewer laterals, I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a good chance that
Ready to
you,
build the houses. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
they got a buyer, they want to build the
Yeah.
houses. So they don't wait
Uh,
for.
you're only waiting for the flow of information so that we understand what's that, what are we up against? You know, how much of the current anticipated development can be done with that line? Can it all be done? You know, we could be a month and a half away from saying the line's in great shape, no capital project is necessary, sewer approvals are going to start to go out the door. But we're not there today. And I know that your project is not of the same scale of others, but we're not, we're not letting some sneak through and others wait. We're kind of holding everyone to the same line until we have information in hand. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. I don't agree with it, but it certainly makes sense.
And just for the record, I did state that a commercial application was required. That's an error. It's a residential.
Okay, on this project, so your comment, we can just replace the word commercial with residential. Yep,
And then this, I guess, a similar one is the sidewalks, just to be clear. So
Yeah.
I think they were a little thrown when sidewalks was added to the adjacent project. And I'm just not 100% clear what that comment said. And if the intent is to make this project
Correct.
require to sidewalks along the frontage of this street
correct.
or these three lots?
Yeah, so it's essentially you have a condition of approval on the other project, the 75 units on the
They're
back.
unrelated. I mean, they're related. The overlap is because the owner needed to acquire 50 feet to fix that problem.
Yeah, yeah.
The other-
I would say
It
the
wasn't, had nothing to do with the development of these lots.
I would say that the previous condition of approval was because there's a gap in the sidewalk network here. We have an opportunity through this project to help basically extend that sidewalk network. It basically leads right to where you guys are probably aware. The sidewalk network ends right about where your major entryway into your project would come. Through a combination of several projects happening in the area, we're in a position where we're actually going to be extending a full sidewalk network all the way down to the intersection of Arnold Road. It may not be on that side that it happens now, but on the opposite side of the street, we're going to have a full sidewalk network all the way from Arnold Road all the way to where it exists to up further north on New London. We want to extend both sides as far as we can. The previous condition of approval would have understood to be an off-site improvement, since obviously your project touches New London, but it didn't touch it for that length. That would have been what we were asking for in that as an off-site improvement. Now you have the actual properties coming in front of us. So we're basically going to have that condition fall onto these properties. And my understanding is you guys might want this development to happen first. Is that correct?
Yeah, but these are as three individual home sites, right? It's sold as lots. I mean, it was a resolution of a problem. Obviously, the ability for three houses to do a major, do that length of sidewalk is different. It's a much different equation than 1,500 units across the street, right? It's just a different thing. And I was unaware of the intent to shift it from a project that frankly could shoulder that burden
Yeah.
to one that is just building three houses on frontage lots.
Well, but I understand the concept that there's a financial burden to build the sidewalks. And I understand the concept that one of your projects is going to result in enough revenue where it's easier to shoulder that burden. But if the goal is to separate this into two separate projects, one that's racing forward with single-family houses, and then the other that's focused on the longer-term project in the back, then we're going to shift the burden onto the project that's moving forward first that actually touches the pieces of property where we're doing it. And my suggestion is as you sell the lots, that you find some agreement as you're selling the lots to assume, hey, if that financial burden should come from the project in the back, then that should be a land transaction consideration. That's my point of it. I mean, you guys are seeking to bring three single-family house lots on an area where we know we want sidewalks. We know it's not, we know it's a critical connection point. We know there's sidewalks right near it. We'd be saying the project that wants to move with those single-family house lots right on the frontage, that's going to be the project that's carrying the burden of doing those sidewalks.
I feel that's a change in position. honestly say that. This feels like, I hear you, but this piece of property, which was frankly, the only reason I'm here is to resolve a problem that was identified through process, nothing to do with this. Tried to fix that problem, and now, frontage lots in the town of Coventry rarely get sidewalks. Required to be sidewalk extension, 600 feet of sidewalk extension. So I hear you. It's probably technically, it's technical review, right? This is, if that's what the ordinance allows you to do or requires you to do, then so be it. But unequivocally, I think that these three houses are shouldering the burden of projects that may or may not happen. Who knows what's going to happen the next year, right? Really, are people going to invest $100 million in center of New England for housing? I don't know. But these houses clearly are going to be much more difficult to maintain reasonable cost homes on those lots as of this decision.
Well, it's not a surprise or a shift from our policy that we want sidewalks there. Is that fair? So you're satisfied? Okay. Any other comments on this? All right. Hearing none, then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. We are at item 4.2, the proposed storage building on Airport Road. These are for comments to the administrative officer. This is at this stage just a pre-application, so the applicant is not seeking any binding decisions. This is really just to receive comments back. This application is going to be a minor land development with a proposed modification. And that modification would, if it's approved, would allow this to stay at a staff level decision. And the applicant is proposing to construct a 5,000 square foot equipment garage and commercial storage building with associated parking and landscaping. And the modification is to set the building 45 feet from the front property line where 50 feet is required. Why don't we go the other way this time? Chief Katie, do you mind leading us off with any comments that you have on this one?
Yes, after conferring with my fire marshal, what we did find out was that the building was over the allowed distance to a hydrant. So the last public hydrant that we saw was at the intersection of Airport Road and Reservoir Road, where it turns off. The closest hydrant to the proposed building is about 120 feet away, as a straight line goes to Poppin' John Lane. It's just in from Poppin' John, but the hydrants in the Westwood Estates trailer park are private hydrants. That was his concern. So water supply was a concern. That was the only comment I had on it. It would just have to be, that would have to be addressed as far as fire protection goes because of the lack of hydrants.
So are you looking for the installation of a new private hydrant in the area?
Or extend the hydrant from the last hydrant, which is on Reservoir and Airport, or a private hydrant close enough to the building. But the private hydrant, according to the fire marshal, is out of play basically on Poppin' John, even though it's within the required distance to be to the building. It's just a private hydrant because it's in the Westwood Estates. We don't know the water flow of that hydrant as well.
Is it something that the applicant could provide data on the flow at that private hydrant and it could become an availability? Do you need any sort of agreements on like a public use of that hydrant, or is it considered that if there's a fire in the area, you're allowed to use that hydrant?
Come up with an agreement on it, like as far as using the private hydrant.
Come on up, Mike.
with-
Yeah, come
with
right up
Westwood
to the podium.
Estates.
Mike, I know it's kind of formal here, but I mean, we're basically just having a conversation.
Because that hydrant,
First time I've ever been in front of the town planning commission where I was actually happy to be here. So,
First, Mike, is your button green over there? Because it's all informal, but we want to get you recorded. You want green.
got it.
You're good.
so the marshal said that hydrant, which is about 120 feet away on Poppin' John, is the closest one that we can see, you know, without the building being there, the proposed location.
Would any help be the fact that when I bought 75 Airport Road, there wasn't any hydrants down that area?
Right.
So Chief Short guy, mustache, been there forever, drove the purple Suburban.
Oh, probably Chief Baines years ago.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, when he came down, and wanted the road around the pond and he wanted separation of the piles, he asked me to go to DEM and get 2 6-inch hydrants for my
I-
pond.
Yeah, I'm aware of those. Yep.
Those are active. They're 5 to 6, they're 6.5 feet down on the ground and they're active. And we gave a written consent for lifetime to the fire department for any fires down there. Anytime you want to go in the yard, you're welcome to pull in anytime you want. So I don't know if that is a factor, but those are less than 150 feet away from the corner of the property. There's 2 of them in there.
Yeah, I think they exceed the distance though, according to the marshal, to this new proposed building
Does he know of them?
for a water supply. Oh, yeah, he knows of your 2 water supplies. We've used them before for the mulch fires. Yeah. Well, we've used one of them before. Sometimes one gets blocked by some
Very fair.
apparatus.
That won't happen.
Yeah. Well, we're aware of them. And it is great. And that's what keeps your other buildings satisfied down that end that you built, is that water supply that you established.
That private hydrant is not usable. There is water on that street. So what about a cistern of some sort? Would that, I guess I don't understand the question. You asking me to make the hydrant closer or what? I don't know whatever you need me to
My
do.
comment is the study needs to be done for, it, right? I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do. I'm just saying that, according to the fire marshal, the water supply is too far away. The private hydrant is typically out of play unless you make some kind of agreement with Westwood. So you'd have to come up with an alternative. Could it be a cistern? Could it be extending the line from reservoir and airport?
This is because it's a commercial industrial use or because it's
Because of this,
just too far away?
because of the size of the building, because it's commercial use. Correct. And because your other water supply is too far away, according to the marshal. Which serves your water supply for your other buildings down there that you put up.
I understand. I
I think if you got together with the marshal, you guys could come up with something on that, you know? That,
Here, I'm gonna sit down.
I mean,
That's
you
it,
could- you
really.
could sit tight for a bit, Mike. It probably won't be long until you're back up here. And Mike, I'd just explore, I'd recommend exploring that one with Tim. Figure out the best solution, the most cost effective, and it could be a cistern that is the most cost effective.
right, yeah, because I believe extending that line from reservoir and airport would be pricey to get down to the building.
It's a blurry area, that road. I know the town's had some issues this past year with the Public Works Department about plowing it. And come to find out, that road belongs to 2 different people who neither one of them exist anymore. So that was given to the industrial park, which is Charlie Anthony's father, who's passed away since. Charlie Anthony doesn't own anything anymore as of this few months ago since I've acquired this property. And the other side is I don't know if it's the trailer park that's on the deed for that road, but there is 2 names on it. So I'm in the process of trying to figure that out as we speak. There's just potholes and there's a repair to the road and I'm trying to figure out who's responsible for the repair and whatever the case may be. Mr. Pastriak, myself, and the guys over at the concrete place have been kind of taking care of that. But once you leave our industrial park, then you get on that road. Now it's trailer park using it, we're using it, industrial people using it, trailer trucks, so on and so forth. So the water use of that on that piece of property, there's a what do you call it, right in front of my unit, shut off. So Tim Bean looked it up and we have city water right to that on my side of the road. So it may be a cistern or, couple of big tanks or whatever case. I'll do whatever I have to do to make sure the fire department's happy. Whether it's, we have to extend the pipe down the road, great. I'll get a letter from them saying we can use it, but their water line kind of crosses onto our side. And so it's a hairy unit. So I'll talk to him and see what he says. Thanks.
Great. Chief Heiss, any comments on this one? Chief, do you mind hitting your button for us?
The only concern I had would be possible noise complaints regarding if the vehicles have backup alarms or if there was excessive vehicle idling. We've experienced that in some similar areas in town. Just like suggestions would be if people backed in ahead of time. I'm not sure if you know what type of vehicles would be parked in there.
And as far as that goes, Chief, we've worked since Tommy Maiozzi left, there's been 0 complaints. I don't think you guys have responded to any. I talked to, I'm horrific with names, but I've asked the question, have you guys had a lot of trips down there in regards to the noise since I put up the new buildings? A lot of the noise complaints were from the tailgate smacking in the parking lot in my yard we put up the row of buildings, which stopped all that. All the doors face the other way. The lighting is dimmed on that side of the, from 8 o'clock on. All the neighbors on the right-hand side are familiar with the fact it's an industrial piece of property. I went door to door and talked to everybody, told them we were building a 50 by 100 building. We're gonna put the doors facing the opposite way. The applicant that's coming, that's looking to rent there is Mike from Rhode Island Truck and Trailer. He's in where the old Pride Ford used to be. So that's where we're gonna try and move him to that building, which will be more business to the town of Coventry. We did talk about noise. They only operate from, I think it's 8 to 4:30, so there's gonna be nothing after hours. Then anything that's being done is being done in the shop, not outside the shop. So noise has been I pay close attention to it. The school buses have all put silencers on there. They know not that, there's no beeping when they back up in the morning. There's no, any of that. They limit that. So, Tony and Melissa from the bus company, because we have all the buses down there now at the end of the road. There's 37 buses that roll out of there. They've been there for 4 months now, and we've had 0 complaints. So no noise, no speeding. They get told they get caught speeding, police department, anybody past 18 miles an hour, they're fired. It's a non-negotiable issue. I do not want any problems on Airport Road, and I police it with my Ozies, not my Ozies, but Pastriacs guys, when they bring their loads in, because they bring the material in, they dump it on a pile, they bang their gates. They've been told, hey, no banging the gates. So everybody that's down there now is pretty regimented about, you catch a random guy comes in from Providence or something like that who doesn't know the rules. Somebody will grab him by the ear and say, hey, knock it off. So we've had 0 complaints about noise, and we're going to try and do everything possible, and Mike's been aware of it as well, to keep that the same positive thing. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Josh.
Planning's comments are, applicant must either adjust the application to show the proper owner of subject properties and get the signature of the proper owner, or change the plans to show the proper owner of the subject properties. You mentioned.
I think they're all still shown in records under Charles.
Sorry. The project has to show that proper owner.
So as of right now, plans show that they are owned by a Charles Anthony.
Understood.
Uh,
That was just for reason of submittal, Josh. That's.
Yeah, it's a pre-app.
When we put this in front of you, the town, as of today, still has not completed with the solicitor their information to get. It's been recorded, but it's not been completed.
Yep.
So it's basically on the town's position to finish their due diligence. Once they do the due diligence, I'll get you a set of plans that says, Mike, Baird properties and so on and so forth. But that will all be taken care of. I
And
promise.
Tim will take care of that. He can change the plans if he gets all the information that the transaction has
I was
happened.
just answering
Yeah.
Josh's
Yeah, no,
question.
yeah, it's a minor thing.
Understood fully and will be addressed without question.
Applicant is seeking a 10% modification for a 45-foot front setback where a 50-foot setback is required due to the wetlands covering the majority of the properties. Such a modification will be requested and potentially granted as an administrative action of the planning department during the preliminary stage. At the preliminary stage, the applicant must submit a separate sheet showing the removal of the lot line between the 2 properties to be recorded as an administrative subdivision action as part of this minor land development review. Zoning table needs to be revised to show correct proposed front setback and distance to a residential property. Proposed max % impervious should be recalculated. The 58% as detailed on the plan does not appear to be accurate. Dimensions of parking area and driveways will be required at preliminary stage. DEM approval for construction in the wetland buffer shall be required at the final plan stage. Landscaping, trees, and fence can be removed from the wetlands buffer area, which shall extend to the edge of such buffer to screen the building from nearby residential uses. Information on the number of, height of, and type of planting shall be required at preliminary stage. And applicant shall ensure adequate sight lines for vehicles exiting the property.
Most of that stuff is going to be small nickel and dime stuff Tim will clean up.
Yes, but just to answer the question, which I think it's important for the board to understand as well as as much as mostly the engineer. The only reason we came and asked, and I know Doug's aware of this, but I think it's else to know. The reason we asked for a somewhat of a setback from the 50-foot to the 5-foot less, so 45 feet instead of 50 feet. When we go to DEM, the silt fence that's upon that property right now is at 75 feet. I don't want to go to DM. When I bought the property, I had to go in and measure it. And we went with the biologist. I spent a year and a half ago, I spent $8,000 to have an engineer come in. Ed Abenizia does stuff for a long time. Comes in and marks out my wetlands buffer, and then he marked out the 75 feet for me. That's where I come up with where the silt fence should go. So I didn't put the silt fence there because I was shooting from the hip or hoping for permission, which I used to do. I used to ask for permission instead of forgiveness, right, Kevin? Sometimes it's better for forgiveness than permission. But anyway, aside from that, I asked for that 5-foot forgiveness on this end, because when you go to DEM wants to say, okay, we're willing to let you move into this property and do this within the 200-foot buffer zone, but we want to see that you've asked the town for something. And by the town being ability to give me a 5-foot setback shows them that we've asked and they concurred. So that little bit of 5-foot kiss will make the DM people, satisfy the DM people, so they don't have to come back and ask me, hey, did you ask them? So I've already asked them. They gave me this little piece and they could do it administratively. And then, so I don't foresee any issues. And then the second part of just after that, you asked the question about going to DM. As soon as we get the warm and fuzzies that you guys are okay with this, then Tim's going to put his drainage plan together. He'll take care of his impervious construction, and we'll make sure we work closely with the engineer to make sure any and all stormwater runoff gets taken care of to his satisfaction. And I told you that the other day. All right? That's as much as I remember what you said.
And just to comment on the modification, Mike, two things so you're aware. One is the process of it is when we get past this pre-app, you're going to owe us, it's two separate actions. It's a minor land development to build the building. It's a modification to get the setback adjusted. The modification is 10% of the code, which means that it can be considered at a staff level. It gets a notification, and then there's a 2-week comment period. If anybody objects to it in that 2-week comment period, then we can't render the decision. They don't have to have a specific rationale for objecting. They can object for any reason. Then we can readdress whether you still want that 10% or where we stand, because at that point, the 10% can only be given by the commission.
I perfectly understand. And the ability for me to ask for the 5% now or whatever is to get to the DEM stage. DEM, it's a perfect example of the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. And please don't take that to, I don't mean it. DEM is going to see that I asked.
Yep.
And preliminarily, they said, if this goes through, you'll say, okay, if that is the case of the pleasure of this board, then Tim will put all this stormwater stuff, send it to DM. DM's going to come back and say, well, he asked, send it back. And in the meantime, somebody on the board says, wait a minute, I'm not okay with that. I don't think DM is going to put, and Tim, that is Tim, is going to say that, without the 5-foot setback, we're not going to do it. I'm already at their 75 feet that they wanted, so I can't foresee DM having any issues with this at all. I don't see any. I mean, we're not, there's nothing earth shattering here. This is just a building, 50 by 100-foot building on a piece of industrial property in the town of Coventry that hasn't been used in 100 years.
Understood. Yeah, I think that the 5 feet doesn't really change the setting. In my opinion, what I think is valuable is that you're giving us the fence and the landscaping in the front. To be quite honest, I think that's nice screening to the neighbors across the street. And I think that the 5 feet, there's not going to be a real ability to detect the difference between 45 feet or 50 feet. So the landscaping gives you a nice setting. I'm only reminding you that, the 5 feet of relief is something that is ultimately going to be subject to any objection that could happen.
Understood. And if they do, like I said, if they do argue it, we don't need it. It's only something I'm doing because DEM's requesting I ask. I think Tim and I had a
Yep, understood.
As long as DEM comes back and says, we're happy with that, then town comes back and says, we don't want to do the 5 feet. I just move the building over a little bit. It's not, we're still, we have enough room in the buffer between the 75 feet and to move the building over the 5 feet. So if somebody did come back and said, hey, I'm not okay with the 5 feet, then we'll just move the building 5 feet, no big deal. But I wanted to make sure I covered my bases on both sides.
Understood. Yep. Joe, are you next? Yeah, watch out.
I just had a quick comment on the wetland buffer. I just said disturbance shown inside the 75-foot wetland buffer zone will require a RIDEM variance.
And then we'll be expecting RIDEM permitting at final plan, DEM. It's all right.
So I can understand it.
Any disturbance inside the 75-foot wetland buffer zone will require a variance from DEM.
Yeah, that's what we're, we haven't submitted to DEM yet because we wanted to wait for this. Once this goes through and everybody's good, then Tim's waiting for me at my phone call to say, hey, go. And then he's gonna put all his stuff in. He's gonna submit it to DEM. It usually takes a couple of months to do that. Talking about septic systems, not septic systems. Once we got permission to build the building, right now it's a storage building. If the event there is a bathroom needed, we will then submit for an septic, or I'm not 100% sure where the sewer line. Do you know where the sewer line is on that road?
Don't know the sewer location on that road. It
On
would be
that far?
private, and I don't know what that would look like for you to try to connect to their sewer system. Is there sewers anywhere in there?
I think it goes up that far. It's not going to the high school
Yeah.
extension. It's going to go to the high
It's,
school.
it's probably not going to pencil out. But your application on its face today does not require an OWTS permit. It's actually a good catch and one that you will end up with a similar condition of approval as airport, as, have the porta potty. Because, I mean, essentially, you're going to have guys coming in and out. I know it might not be a lot, but we do want to have some ability for someone to relieve themselves on the site. We'll get that. That's something
There's
that'll
room-
come.
there's
And
room to
then,
do it.
and then if at some point in the future you receive an OWTS permit to actually do plumbing in the building, then we'll set up the condition so that it's a porta potty until that event does happen. We're not going to seek the documentation at this time because frankly, I think we can move forward with
It's the same as we.
building
Road, yep.
and consider the building as your first step of review.
I brought it up today because I didn't want anybody to, later on to say, well, you never talked about that. I have every intention of I went to DEM on 75 Airport Road. We're still waiting. It's been 7 months. We submitted the plans. It's got a 4-foot water table, no issues. What are you doing? But I can't, you can't go to DEM and talk to anybody. You can't call anybody on the phone either.
Yeah.
But we have a site. Kevin actually gave me permission to go inside. This is what, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, to go inside the buffer zone to put the system, because that piece of property down there, which was, I'm very surprised that the piece of property that's there now, that we're talking about today, wasn't filled. That was all original ground. If you dig in the ground a foot, it's sand, like it was throughout the rest of that. But down the end of the road is all filled and Dave Skirka filled it in. And everybody's been filling it for 100 years. So there's no actual virgin ground there to put a septic system in, except for inside where the trees of the buffer zone. And Kevin and I walked in, we went over that, and that's where we ended up putting it, and we got a 4-foot water table. But we've submitted, but it's, we just haven't heard anything back. So as soon
Yeah.
as that comes back, we are plumbed, piped, and ready to install the septic system, the pumps. There's 2 pumps, two pumps in the back of the first 2, and 2 pumps in the other ones with tanks, and they're gonna be pumped up to that septic system. So I assume that this site will end up being the same way. So
Yeah.
that's why I didn't submit for
You,
it.
you don't see it as a comment, and we'll email you, Tim, all of the comments that you just heard so you can see them.
Nothing-
You don't see it as a comment, but when you get for the next stage, expect that there'll be the similar condition of approval, seeking a porta potty in lieu of plumbing until such time that plumbing is provided, and that can be a building permit consideration.
Understood. Mike's also talking about what he has. I guess they have a problem where he is now, and that's one of the reasons he's trying to get out of there. But they have a septic issue over where they are now, supply wise. So he actually has a trailer that they have for their employees to work out of, and his wife or whatever works in the office. They have a portable like an event trailer. It's got 2 doors in it, sink and bathroom and water and all that happy stuff, and it's winterized.
It's like a drive-up bathroom.
Hey, you go to a concert and you walk in and things nicer than the one you have in your house. Yeah, it's big, yeah, it's big business. Well, you can buy that whole unit for 41,000. You put it outside your office. So the bus company was actually looking for that because they wanted 2 bathrooms.
Oh, okay.
Supply
It's like a mobile bathroom. You just drive it around.
trailer in, put it up on blocks, skirt the bottom of it, and it's good to go.
Yeah.
And a porta potty company comes out and pumps it out. It's pretty unique. Pretty cool.
Thanks, Mike. Any other comments on this application? Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin, go ahead.
Just one clarification, as Mr. Baird has indicated, this project is being proposed on a private right-of-way, not a town road, correct?
Yeah, as far as I know, Kevin, like I said, it's a
That's what I-
gray area, what's going on down
Our
there.
records show that it's private.
Yeah. That's what Tim came up with too, that it was private, but, yeah, I don't see anywhere that it was a town road. It's private. Road. I actually took over this, he took over plowing it up to the airport and Reservoir. Any other questions?
I think we're all set unless anyone else has questions, comments? All right. So that concludes that item. The next item, item 4.3, Highlands at Hopkins Hill. This was added to the, you're welcome. This was added to the agenda, but we have since discovered that it is not a complete application, so we're gonna hold back on any TRC comments at this time. That concludes the agenda. And unless there's any other general comments or questions, hearing none, I'll consider the meeting adjourned. Thank you.